Great. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Brendan Blake. I'm the Associate State Director of Advocacy, and we are back with another Back to the Basics, the first of the year. Coach Sherry Ann, how you doing?
I'm excellent, Brendan. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's crazy how fast 2021 went by, and here we are, fourth day of the year for 22.
Yeah, I keep seeing the funny memes on the internet about like 2022 just coming right up on us after dealing with 2020, and it's like it just has gone by so quickly. I just, it feels like just yesterday that it was 2020 and, we had shut everything down. So
Yeah, and I make jokes with some of my close friends. I'm like, it just feels like everything went on pause for
yeah.
for a bit. But luckily for myself and my children, this last winter, we just got back from Canada, so we hadn't been able to travel up to see my closest friend in 2 years, and so it was quite the ordeal, though, and we were happy to go through all the hoops. But making sure that you have all your negative tests, your COVID vaccines, like everything, so you're cleared. And up in Canada, I mean, they're very, very conservative. They're constantly masked everywhere. And so, but it was interesting to see how things were going to shake out because of the Omicron. And I know it has a lot of people very fearful, but we're just going to keep moving forward. And today's topic I'm excited about because we'll be talking about how to stick to your 2022 New Year's resolutions. Because I know there are a lot of people that don't want to set them because for the fear of not sticking to it, because no one really likes failure. And so the fear of this, don't set intentions.
Sure.
And like I said in December, I prefer the word intentions as well as I know you do.
Yes.
Over resolutions. So, but yeah, so please, when you're tuning in, please let us know where you're tuning in from, because I always love to see and hear where people are tuning in from across the United States. So I'm excited about this topic to help people stick to their goals.
Yeah, me too. My wife and I have started using the phrase intentions rather than resolutions, because it's the things that we intend to do this year that we didn't do last year, or maybe it's sticking to stuff that we, picked up last year that we want to keep going with. So it's supposed to be a little bit more all-encompassing and also not as shaming if you're not able to follow through. So
yeah, exactly. It's because we're humans. We're humans. We're going to fail. And part of failure, part of growing and being better and being 1% better today than you were yesterday is recognizing those shortcomings. And so there's nothing wrong with them. And a study has shown that only 12% of people have felt successful in setting their intentions. And we say by the end of January, some people have already fallen off, but really it's about March. People can make it until March. And so I'm going to give you some tips today to stay motivated and stay, sticking to those intentions. But the most common ones are, to lose weight, to live a healthier lifestyle, eat healthier, exercise more.
Right.
Believe it or not, one still popular one is to quit smoking. And I think I think that's a great one. You got to stick to it, but I'm just surprised that there's people still smoking. I'm like, what? Another one that's really wonderful and beautiful is spend more time with your family. And what's amazing, that's one of the gifts that with mine is with COVID is we have spent a lot of togetherness is what I call it. But it's been wonderful. But yeah, those are typically the top goals that people throw out there, and they tend to be a little vague. And so that is one of my first things for people is to be more specific. Be very specific about what goal you are going to make. And I have a phrasing of make it be a cue-based goal. And cue-based meaning, if you've ever been to Broadway or if you've ever done any kind of theater, there's cues that they give the actors, and even on TV, even when you're doing TV work, you're given cues on how to be, where to be and when to be. And that's so that everything can flow smoothly. Right. So make your intentions cue-based, and by saying is like, say one of your intentions is to meditate 5 days a week, and you can't say, I'm just going to meditate on the weekdays, make it be much more specific. Say you're going to meditate at lunchtime. So your lunchtime is your cue. It's my cue. It's time to go meditate.
Huh.
So be
Yeah.
very, very specific. Stay away from being vague with your goals. That way you can make sure that you don't let it just slip away.
Sure, sure. I mean, I have very specific goals that last year I had a goal that I wanted to read more, and that's really non-specific. I'm not much of a reader. I never have been. I don't know how I got through school as a result of that, but it was a goal for me to to read more. And this year I'd like to read a certain number of books. I have a couple of books that I want to get through, and even if I don't read 10 books, that will be considered reading more. If as long as I get through these couple of books, I think I'll be happy. So,
Yeah. Well, so if you have a certain number of books, then I'm going to encourage you to reverse engineer that in the sense of figure out, if you're going to read 2 books a month and, and kind of bite-sized chunk it out so that you're not going, I got to read, 12 books this year, that's a book a month, depends on how avid of a reader you are and what size the books are also. Cause I mean, if you're reading like a really big one, like it could take a little longer.
right. Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll get through with my New Year's intentions, but that's a good idea to make it to chunk it out, because otherwise I could get to October and
Right.
say, I've got to read 2 or 3 books right now because I didn't do it the rest of the year. So,
So the way to do that is to kind of reverse engineer, because I help athletes set goals all the time. And so when we have a big goal, we reverse engineer up to that goal so that we have milestones to hit. And so make sure that when you're doing, you have kind of a big goal, which is great to have, but you definitely want to have milestones to meet the big goals, because big goals have a tendency to make people feel like failures if they're not getting, because it could be so big, so it takes so much work to get to it. So make sure that you're having milestones that you can check off as you're going.
great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
New Year's resolutions are very, very popular, and there's a reason why they're popular. It's because people look at the beginning of the year as a new start, and because it's new year. And so new start, new beginnings. But the other days in a person's calendar year that they look at also are their birthdays. People look at birthdays like a New Year's because it's a
Yeah.
new start, it's a new beginning, it's a new year. Um, and actually Mondays, believe it or not, like
No, I
Mondays.
see that very clearly. I've seen that in my own life very clearly. My wife and I are like, all right, this is it. We're not going to eat like this anymore. We're going to start strict on Monday. That's something we've done plenty of times.
See, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that actually do that. So, and it's okay to recognize that we have these new starts and new beginnings, because it also will help you recognize that if you don't set to your New Year's intentions, you can just set a date like, Monday. Or sometimes a lot of the times for people too, it'll be like, I'll start at the first of the month, you
Yeah.
know, um, and so, and that's okay. But recognizing that and allowing yourself some grace is really, really very important, because hitting goals is a process. And you have to recognize that we are creating behavioral changes in ourselves. And that's why I'm wanting to give you these tips, because most people don't understand and recognize that when they're setting an intention, they're they're wanting a behavioral change within themselves. And so creating that can be very, very challenging. And so that's why having a cue-based plan is really imperative, because it'll help you just stay focused, because it won't allow you to have it slipped away. The other one I really like is consider a penalty clause. I know that
Mm,
sounds rather sinister, but penalties have a tendency to motivate people more than rewards. They've done a lot of scientific studies, and believe it or not, I mean, think about it. If you are speeding and you get a ticket, that's a penalty. That is more motivating than getting a discount sometimes on your insurance, because we'll have these safe driver apps and people will, you know, not necessarily be motivated by that, but they're more motivated by that penalty of that speeding ticket.
sure. Yeah, that
So,
makes sense.
so a penalty clause is totally okay. And there's ways that you can do it. You can tell your friends and family so that when they check on you and you haven't fulfilled your intentions, you're bummed, like you're like disappointed in yourself. And that's
Sure.
a pretty mild one. If you want to, you can, make a bet with your friends, put some money on the table with your friends and put it in a pot, and whoever's, most successful, you can figure out different ways to do it. And if you
Yeah.
don't want to put money on the table with your friends, there's these two websites that I came across when I was kind of just doing some research on keeping your intentions. And one of them is stick with two Ks, so stickk.com. And then another one is Bee Minder, and it's BEE, like a buzzing bee, minder.com. And what it is you put money into a pot with them, they hold on to it. And if you don't fulfill your intentions, then it goes to the charity of your choice.
Interesting.
And so there's a lot of fun ways that you can, play with your penalty clause. Don't have it be sinister, but do recognize, behaviorally, we are motivated more by a penalty than a reward.
Yeah.
So why not act on it? So, but
Sure.
have fun with the penalty clause.
Sure. Yeah. And for those of you interested, that is related to operant conditioning in psychology. So feel free to check that out using my psychology background. But my wife and I, we had sort of an accountability group with a friend of ours about losing weight before the end of the year. And so and every time we'd see each other, we'd check in about how we were doing. And so it was helpful because we got to check in on our progress. And it's always great to have an accountability partner.
Oh, 100%. I mean, that is one of the tips. So 100%. And speaking of psychology, there is a great book out there, and it's called How to Change. And it's the science of getting where you are to where you want to be. And the author is Katie, it's Katy, and then Milkman, like the milkman.
Yeah.
But she has a great book on, and she actually has a podcast called Choiceology. And so she goes into the whole science of how to change your brain so that you can get from where you are to where you want to be. Because that's one of the things that I think people don't also, like I said earlier, don't recognize is that if you're wanting to change your habits, that's behavioral. That's all in your brain. And so if you can train your brain to be stronger, then you'll be way more successful. But it's a really, really good book. Okay, so the next tip is to make sure that you're having fun with your intentions. Because if you're not having fun, why would you stay motivated? Why would you stick with it? If in the goal of the pursuit, it's got to be fun. And it's been proven that if you're having fun, you're definitely going to persist a lot longer. Because so what I do is, what do I call it? Temptation bundling. So temptation bundling is kind of like, so if you're a student and you really don't like studying, but you really like the coffee shop, only allow yourself to go get like a mocha latte or a latte or whatever your drink of choice would be if you're studying. So temptation bundling. Another one is if you are having a hard time getting to the gym to work out, but you really have a favorite TV show, only allow yourself to watch that favorite TV show at the gym. So, I mean, that's just so doing temptation bundling actually helps you have a little more fun if you're struggling with being excited about your intentions.
That's one thing that I've found that worked for me as I've tried to lose weight throughout my life. Has been because I hate doing running. Any kind of cardio is not my thing. And so the way that I've gotten through it is not music, it's not podcasts, because I'm a visual person. I love watching TV, movies. I like doing that kind of thing. So what I did was I paired TV watching, whether it was, the Suns were on or the Diamondbacks or a show I was watching, and running. So that way my mind's not focusing on how much I hate running, and instead it's following the plot. So that's been a lifesaver for me, and I can run more now than I have before, and I credit a lot of that to being able to bundle those two things. So I love that tip.
Yeah. So temptation bundling, don't be afraid to do it. Do it. It works. It's been proven to work. So stick with it. And as you're watching this and you're tuning in, please share what your resolutions are or your intentions for 22. I would love to see them and hear what they are. And because by also putting it out in public, you're allowing other people to know so that you can be held a little more accountable. So next tip for you is to allow for emergencies. Show yourself some grace. Like we said earlier, no one's perfect. We're going to fall off the wagon. And those failure, I don't really look at them as failures. People tend to use that word failure, but I'm like, it's just a step back, a misstep or a setback. It's not necessarily a failure. And so just show yourself some grace. In some ways, if you want to make it fun, give yourself 2 get out of jail free cards. If you mess up once, use that get out of jail free card. But showing yourself some grace is really, really very, very important. In that way that we can stay more motivated and not beating ourselves up.
Yeah, I think that that's great. I think if anything's taught us over the last couple of years is that things change and stuff happens, and it doesn't necessarily, like, if gyms shut down, it's okay to not go to the gym. I mean, you'll have to reassess and figure out new ways to make things happen, but realigning your priorities or changing things up a little bit and every once in a while is okay if you have to make those adjustments.
Right. And that goes along with learning and adapting. Because, when COVID hit and gyms shut down and, things changed and we things weren't as readily available to us, it really disrupted people's lives. And so, your intentions would have probably been turned upside down. And so it's really important to be adaptable. And I know that's a challenging thing for a lot of people because a lot of people don't like change. It makes them, unnerved, and because routine makes people very comfortable.
Yeah.
So the more that you can learn to be adaptable in situations, then the more successful you're going to be in achieving your goals and your intentions.
Yeah, I think that's great. I had a professor in college who said one of the best things that I could learn how to do is be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. All right,
No,
what's the next tip?
that's a good one. Well, and so in learning along those lines, though, but learning from your past failures, if you're learning from your past failures or missteps or setbacks, whichever word you so choose to use, that motivates you, then learn from those and just make some adjustments. And just because and I always try to encourage people when they're setting their intentions, if you've set the same intention every year, let's go back and reevaluate why you're not making that intention. Like, let's learn from that so that we can be successful this year. Because that is a tendency that people will do, is they will make the same intention or resolution or goal. And it's like, okay, so try to make it be a little bit different, a little bit bigger, a little bit better. But let's reevaluate as to why you're not hitting it. Because there's a reason why. So let's deal with that root cause before we, just jump right into it again and beat ourselves up for not not getting it again. So learn from those past mistakes and missteps. The next tip I have for you is to help a friend achieve their goals. Because when you're helping someone else, it's going to improve your success rate. It's been proven to. Because if you're helping them, they're going to turn around and help you most likely. But even if they're not, by you being there for somebody else, it's actually going to motivate you that much more to achieve your goals. So, and that goes along the lines of like having an accountability partner, like you were saying earlier. And so it's, accountability partner is more where you're both really motivated to help each other, which is wonderful. But if you just unconditionally are helping somebody else and not looking for anything in return, it's your success rate is going to improve no matter what.
That's great. That's great. I think that, I mean, we all have people in our lives who want to make, positive changes to themselves this year. So I don't think that there's any lack of opportunity there. I can think of 10 people off the bat that, I know of who are interested in, most of them are fitness goals related. I think that that's probably one of the most common ones, as you alluded to. But I think that, whether it's mindfulness, fitness, or some other improvement in their lives, then I think that there's ample opportunity. And it kind of goes back to, a back to the basics a few months ago about, being kind and helping others. This is another opportunity for that. So I think that that's a great one.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just going to make you feel good too. I mean, which is always a good thing. The next, actually, this is the last tip that I have for you, is to make sure that or not make sure, but I would encourage you to do a resolution journal. And the reason for that is because then you can kind of track your progress, and you can stay attached to it and connected to your intentions. And it also gives you an opportunity to continue to renew your motivation connected to those intentions. And so by staying very present to them, it just is going to help your success rate that much more. And resolution journals are actually, I think, a lot of fun. And I mean, you can call it an intention journal, a resolution journal, just a journal. Like, but writing out how it's going is going to help tremendously, and it'll help you stay connected to what motivates you, what your why is. And that's the other thing too, is when you're setting your intentions, have it be connected to something that's emotionally charging for you. Because if it's emotionally charging, you're going to definitely stay more motivated to it. And so, like, for my parents, when their resolution or their intention is to, be a little more healthier this year, and it's not that they're unhealthy, but their motivation is their grandkids. Of course, they're kids, but their grandkids are a little bit more motivating to them, because they want to be around, they want to see them and watch them grow up. Because I think for grandparents, it's always a little more enjoyable watching your grandchildren than your own children, because you don't have the stresses of actually raising these human beings.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I love that last one. I think it's a step in the direction of mindfulness, and I think a lot of people, everybody can use more mindfulness in their lives. I know I can, and just being able to be mindful and of why and the progress that you're making or not making, and understanding some of the reasons behind that, I think is great.
Mhm.
Absolutely wonderful.
Oh, yeah, because it's going to help you stay motivated. And putting your thoughts down on paper and your intentions just cements them that much more in you, and you'll be that much more effective. And so just don't be afraid to write stuff down. I think people have a tendency to shy away from journaling because it's time consuming. And if writing down, it does feel time consuming to you, you can do voice journals, and you can save them. You can archive them in your phone or in different places. And so voice journaling is actually quite effective. Just go for a walk and talk into your phone and record your intentions. But for me, I like the art of writing. I like the feel of pencil and paper, and I like to go back and read them,
Mm.
in different times. Because if you do an audio journal, then you got to go back and listen, which is just as pleasant sometimes for people. But there's different ways to journal, and so don't shy away from it, because it's incredibly helpful, and insightful, and helping you be mindful. And it sounds like you've used that word a couple times this segment, so I'm wondering if one of your intentions is to be more mindful this year.
I wouldn't say that it is a specific goal of mine, but I've really, I think that as a way for me to, be a better person, be a better husband, be a better son. I think that one of the ways that I want to try to do that is by being more mindful about, how I am, and the kind of just generally learning a little bit more about how I operate and how I'm perceived by others. I think is something that I really want to focus on this year, and so I'll keep you updated about how that goes, and maybe I'll try to make it a little bit more specific than it is now. But it's something I just kind of it's an intention for sure.
Sure, I get it. I would encourage you to think about, the more specific side of that. Maybe think about, the energy that you bring into a space that you're in, whether
Mhm.
it's with your parents or your wife or at work. Because when you're thinking about the energy that you bring in, that is a very mindful thing, because that your energy impacts everybody
Yeah.
that's in your surrounding.
Right, right. I will take that into consideration. Thank you. You mentioned the voice journals. That is something that in the past I have done. I have done in the past voice journals, and I have them saved on my phone. So if you have an iPhone, they're called voice memos. I love it. I have gone back and listened to them, and I think it's definitely worthwhile if you're not much of a pen and paper person, or like me, you're too cheap to go to Office Max and buy a notebook. So I mean, it's free. Or you can use notes on your phone, which I use
Mhm.
incessantly. So I have lists for everything on my phone. So
No, it's whatever really works for you. I mean, my dad's been journaling, and that's how I got into the habit of journaling. He encouraged it and it just stuck. But he has volumes of journals. And then he switched over to audio because he walks, and he walks like 6 miles every morning. And so he would
Mm.
just go for walks, and he would either listen to a book on tape or he would do his voice journaling. So now he's got archives of voice journals. And so
Hmm.
I look forward to getting them all.
Gonna need a storage unit for the volumes. Um,
Yeah.
so just before we go ahead and wrap up, if you
Yeah.
guys are having any New Year's intentions or anything like that, please feel free to share it with us in the comment section. But Coach Sherry, do you have any intentions you'd like to share?
I'm always my intention. One of my intentions that I do every year, and it's because it's one of those. It is more mindful. I set the intention to be very conscientious of the energy that I bring into other people's lives, and a lot of that is because of the career path that I have chosen. I do know that how I am impacts everyone that I touch, so I am very intentional about how the energy that I bring into other people's spaces. And so that's one that's for me. And I have a stack of books so that I'm wanting to get through this year. This last year, I got away from reading as much as I used to, and I
Mhm.
want to get back to that. So I have mine chunked out. So I have them listed out as to what I'm going to read each month.
Okay.
So, and then I even segment it even more so that when I don't get to like the third week of the month and be like,
Yeah, I
but
know that feeling.
if I have to adapt and change and adjust it, then I'm not going to beat myself up. I
Right.
won't. I'm very good about showing myself some grace when I fall short of my, intention that I set in that regard. So that's another one of mine. And then the last one my intention is to have more adventures with my children because they're getting older and they're going to be out of my house soon. And that just it almost makes me want to cry because I just love them so much. So being very intentional about the time that I spend with them while they're still in my house.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Oh, yeah, New Year's intentions are an interesting time of year. I know that for people who go to the gym, it's kind of a joke, a running joke that it's really busy, for the first month or so, and then it goes back to being the way that it is. So we'll see how that goes out.
I always chuckle because I mean I used to work in gyms, and so it would just make me laugh. I'd be like, "All right, let's just see," and I would count bodies. I'd be like, "Let's just see how long it's going to take to dwindle down." And funny enough, my youngest, he was like, "Can I want to join the gym this month?" And I just laughed. I was like, I was
Yeah,
like, "Sure, dude. Even though we have everything here at the house, I don't know why you want to go to the gym, but okay."
yeah, yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
But it's all good. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to in 2 weeks, our topic in 2 weeks. So
Well, why don't you tell us about that? We're just getting to the end of our time here. So what's going on in 2 weeks?
we're going to talk about how to boost your immune response. And a lot of that is because there's still a lot of fear surrounding COVID with the variants. And this time of year, people tend to get the sniffles more and colds, respiratory infections and things like that. And so it's not just COVID, it's everything else that you come in contact with. And so I really want to focus on how to boost your immune response so that you can be a little more relaxed and enjoying your winter.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's just that time of year.
Yeah,
So
it really is.
yeah. Well, thank you, Coach Sherry Ann, for sharing with us some tips on how to be better about our New Year's intentions. And for all of you out there with New Year's intentions, good luck, and we are here to support you in those. So please keep following along because I'm sure that the tips and back to the basics will help you with your New Year's intentions, regardless of what they are. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and Happy New Year, and have a great rest of your day. See you later.